In this lecture, we're going to look at connecting players up to your CMS. So you've got your content management system, perhaps running in the cloud, and now we need to connect your players to it so that they can start showing the content that you want them to show. So the players connect to the content management system normally over TLS encrypted HTTPS connections. That's the same connection that you might use when you're shopping online or when you're connecting to your bank. If you've installed your CMS locally, then you may not have enabled HTTPS connections, in which case they'll still communicate but over unencrypted HTTP. When the players connect to the CMS, they connect to a SOAP web service called XMDS. In addition, they can connect to a push messaging service called XMR, which uses the 0MQ message library and typically runs on TCP port 9505. If you're using a cloud CMS, that's all been set up for you. Messages passing over the XMR push message system are encrypted using public-private key encryption methods. XMR is optional in most cases, but it is incredibly useful to have it enabled. There's two main methods available for connecting players to your CMS. Method 1 works across any installation. To connect, we need to know the URL of the CMS and the CMS's secret key. If you're hosting on cloud, you'll find all of that information in your Cloud Welcome email. If you're hosting locally, you should already know the URL of your CMS, and you'll be able to find the secret key on the settings page of the CMS on the configuration tab. We're going to take a look at installing an Android and Windows player and connecting them to the CMS now using method 1. So here we are on our Android device. We've downloaded the Zebo for Android APK and we're just running the installation process now. When the player first launches, it wants us to grant permissions, which we need to click allow for. And then in the top box we enter the URL for our CMS, ensuring that we start with HTTPS since we want the encryption on the connection to the CMS. In the second box, the CMS key, we enter the secret key from our CMS. We can find this on the settings page of the CMS on the configuration tab. Once we've entered the key, we click connect and the player will register with the CMS. We'll see a message telling us that the display is registered and waiting to be authorized. If we look on the displays page in the CMS, we can see it has appeared there. Let's do the same on this Windows 10 machine. So we'll open the Zebo player options from the start menu. When the player options form opens, we enter the URL for the CMS, ensuring it starts HTTPS since we want an encrypted connection. And in the second box, we enter the key, which we can find on the settings page of the CMS on the configuration tab, or if you're using cloud, it will be in your welcome email. Once we've entered the key, we click connect and we'll see a message telling us that the display is registered and waiting to be authorized. If we look back in the CMS on the displays page, we'll be able to see that the player is there waiting to be authorized. Method 2 works where the player and CMS are able to access the internet and works by allowing a code to be transferred from the player to the CMS to authorize a connection. We're going to watch this process on an Android device. So we've already downloaded the APK as before and we're installing it now. When we launch the app, as before, we need to grant permissions. Once permissions are granted, we click the Use Code button and a code is displayed on the screen. In the CMS, we click Add Display with a code and enter that code that's being shown on the Android device's screen. We can see that the player was acquired by the CMS and that the player is now attempting to download content. And so let's see the process on a Windows device. So as before, we open the Zebo player options. And then we press the Use Code button. code will be displayed inside the player settings window. Once we have the code, we go back to the CMS, press the Add Display with Code button and enter the code we were shown. The player will be acquired by the CMS, and on Windows the Zibo Player Options form closes automatically. You then need to launch the player when you're ready to use it. Once you have your players connected to the CMS, you need to authorize them. Authorizing allows the player to download configuration, content and schedule information from the content management system. To authorize, go to the Displays page of the CMS, find the player you just added. You can sort by last connection time to bring the display to the top of the list if you need, or you can search by name. Edit the display and set Authorize Display to Yes. Now might also be a good time to set a default layout. The default layout is there to be shown when there's nothing else available, or if the player is in an error condition. You shouldn't use the default layout to show the content that you want to show on your screen. If you want to show the same thing all the time, instead of using the default layout, you should use an always schedule. The default layout should be simple and short, for example a company logo, and it should last between 10 and 60 seconds. Let's go and build a suitable default layout now. We have courses on content creation if you're not sure how to use the layout designer. So we go to the layouts page and we'll create a new layout. Give it a suitable name. I'd suggest you use the words default layout in it so that it's clear what the purpose of the layout is. We're going to upload a single image, which in this case is going to be a company logo. We click on Add Image and then we upload the image from our computer. Once we've found the image we want to use, we can give it a name to identify it later on and then start the upload. Once uploaded, we might want to change the position or size of the image on the layout. And then when we're finished, we need to publish our layout so that it's ready for the players to download. Then we'll swap back to the displays page and we'll edit one of our displays and set that as the default layout.